Now, there's a lot of videos out there talking about expanded background checks and how they're bad and all this evil stuff that can come from it. And to be honest, those videos are just made by a bunch of bigots.
What's up, Wolverines? Welcome back to the channel, and this is some breaking news.
So I'm here to set the record straight and explain to you why exactly expanded background checks are a very good idea and how they're going to help us as a society. There's a couple of different reasons, specifically 6 of them I'm going to target. Number 1, that would be racial profiling, sexual profiling, gender profiling. What the idea is here is on the expanded background check, it'll have boxes you can tick for all these different categories. This way in the future, when presidents we want to win, they can look at that and using a process of elimination, they can engineer their campaigns specifically to target those people and excite them to get their votes. The next one, number 2, predicting the future.
The other problem with background checks is that they only look at good people and already bad people, but there is an in-between.
The background checks are supposed to catch people who have a record already. It just misses all the people who haven't done anything bad yet, but might do something bad in the future.
Expanded background checks, what they're supposed to do is predict the future, but that's kind of an exaggeration. They're not necessarily predicting the future. What they're going to use is a mathematical algorithm to determine the likelihood of this person committing a crime. So just like predicting the weather, you put together a model with a mathematical algorithm. You have different factors that each get their own point value system, and you take that point value system, you run it through the algorithm, and you can tell who's going to commit a crime even before they know they're going to commit a crime. So a couple of the factors would be like sexual preference, race, gender, location. So let's do a mock equation just so you can see how well it works. Because how you get the values, for example, like you know 100% of the gun crimes that happen in Chicago happen in Chicago. So you can assign a point value to that particular location. So what you're going to do is we'll make a mock equation here. We'll go race, we'll go for black. Gender, we'll go for male. Income, less than $30,000. And lives in Chicago. So when you figure this out and you add in all the variables here, you take race times gender divided by income divided by location squared, and that gives you potential for being a criminal. And in this particular model, it will come to 100%. So you know for a fact, even before he knows it, because he hasn't committed a crime yet, but he will be a criminal, and so you can take the proper steps. Yes, he's never committed a crime before, but the algorithm said he's going to, so we're just going to go ahead, give him his DOC number, assign him a probation officer, and hopefully change his ways. The next one, everyone gets a background check. Now I know that if you want to buy a gun right now, yes, everyone gets a background check, but we want even more than everyone to get a background check. We want everyone, Alice, Noel, everyone getting a background check. So we're not just trying to get everyone, we're trying to get everyone is going to get a background check. And that's real important because background checks save lives. They can predict the future. They can tell when somebody is going to commit a crime even if they've never committed a crime before. Number 4, the registry. So what's going to happen is these new background checks, they're going to be kept because it's always been law before that they cannot keep a record of who owns guns because those bigots were worried about some sort of government tyrannical seizing power nonsense, and so they were forced to destroy records after a certain period of time before. Well, we're going to change that so there's always the records kept. This way you can go back and say you want to trace your lineage, you can go through the gun records and be like, oh, this was my grandpa right here, he owned this firearm. And that's just awesome for collectability on firearms. You can trace where they've been, tracing down a family tree to see what your grandpa was up to and what he may or may not have owned. And that's just really awesome. I mean, just think about how you'll be able to go back and just look up things. And everyone wants to look up things, so that is a really good idea for the next background check. The next one is everyone gets entered into the system. So therefore, let's say person X purchases this pistol and now the bank hit on him, and you know person X is at the bank, they can just go ahead and give him a pat down because they know he owns a firearm, so therefore he may have that firearm present in a gun-free zone when he's not supposed to. And with everybody getting entered into the system, you'll be able to determine and find criminals that are committing crimes, but they don't know about the crimes yet that they've committed. So you got to tell them, like, hey, you've committed a crime here. Now we're going to enter you into the justice system and ultimately, you know, give you the help you need in order to be able to do this. And that's a big deal because most gun, like, murders, I shouldn't call them murders, most gun killings are suicides. So if you're like, okay, this person owns a firearm and now they're renting very sketchy material on pay-per-view, or they're looking up a whole bunch of bad things on the internet, like what's the amount of bleach a person can drink, you know that because they own a firearm and because they're searching this material, they get a red flag. Therefore, the proper help can come there and a SWAT team can show up and drag them out of their house and lock them in a little box until they decide they're no longer suicidal. And that's awesome. I mean, just think of the lives it's going to save.
Police department, search warrant! Police department, search warrant!
Number 6, the next best thing is storing everyone's personal information on a database.
The AG's office releasing a list of names, birthdays, gender, race, and home addresses of every single person in the state of California with a concealed carry weapons permit. This all happened last night after the AG released a website in the effort to be more transparent when it comes to gun safety.
As we just noticed with California, that was real important. What California did is they informed everyone who had a firearm, so you know if your neighbor has a firearm, he could potentially be dangerous. So what they'll do is they'll store everything and then just arbitrarily drop it on the internet so they can see your address, your phone number, your actual location, what properties you own, just in case you live next to them. And say, for example, they're getting loud at their barbecue. You know that they have a firearm, so they might decide to start shooting people next. So, well, what do? You call them in and you're like, hey, they showed a gun. It's this model number. It's this serial number. It looks like this. This is their location. Please go arrest them because their barbecue is getting really loud. Well, you don't tell the police that, otherwise they're not going to show up. But you want them to get arrested because their barbecue is really loud and your kid's trying to sleep. Well, this is a great way to ensure they don't do some sort of violent crime. Because if you know what happens, it starts off with a loud barbecue. And then it turns into a loud barbecue party. And then next thing you know, you got a riot. So we're just going to squash these things before they happen. So with everybody's information out there, and the government releasing it to everybody so everybody knows what everyone else has when it comes to firearms, you can use that. Because yeah, it's just a loud barbecue now. And calling them in, accusing them of a gun crime because of a loud barbecue sounds excessive, but you're not really doing that. What you're doing is preventing a riot. So remember that. It might seem excessive to you now, but you're potentially preventing a riot and possibly thousands and thousands of dollars of property damage. So just remember that. This is a good thing. What we're going to do is it's all about crime prevention. Because it's really hard to know when somebody's going to commit a crime when they have a 100% clean record and they've never committed crimes before. So you need this, the expanded background check, to be able to determine who potential criminals are and handle them accordingly. If you'd like to help support the channel, I got my Patreon, and I also have affiliate links in the description down below. Just by clicking on those links, even if you don't purchase what that particular link is for, just click on that, and I'll get a little kickback because you came to Amazon from my link. Don't forget to subscribe.